Okay, man. Introduce. Let's introduce
Well,
the.
hey,
we're
we're
on Bay
back at Bay Legends, and you know what? We got Frank Martin right here.
Oh.
I
Oh,
can't
Bay
bring
Legends.
him
Where is
out.
he? Where is he?
Right. I mean, it's like the red carpet's there. You don't see that, but
Oh,
we're,
yes.
we're at Notes Music Academy. I got my host Simon Russell.
Mr. Randy G.
Yeah.
Over here.
We're in the hizzy tonight.
It's
in
gonna be
Oakland,
beautiful.
California.
Yes.
My hometown.
Oh,
Yes.
that's right. That's
Born
right.
and raised, I heard.
That's right.
Yeah, man. So we were going over this list and wherever it went.
It's right under your. It's right
It
underneath
doesn't
you.
even matter, man.
Yeah, we're
It's
gonna
just,
do it.
It's
Yeah.
just like
Well, let's just dive right into it.
Let's
see.
dive right into it, man. I know. Simon wanted to talk about Sting,
Oh man.
about the rainforest thing.
Yeah. So, tell us, man. I mean, I've admired Sting forever. One of the beautiful things about him is his distinctive sound. You hear a millisecond of his voice, you know it's Sting. There's no one that sounds like him.
Sure.
And so I love the fact that he could just play any kind of music. He can go into funk, jazz. I heard him on a Herbie Hancock record where he's just killing.
I love that.
That
Love
Possibilities record.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about him, man. What kind of a guy is this guy?
Well, he's a great guy. He's kind of two people. Well, he's a superstar, and so there are moments when when you're around him that he's a superstar, and so you kind of leave some space so the public can see the superstar.
Right.
And he is that, of course. When you're alone, he's a completely different guy. He's just like one of the guys like us. He's just hanging out. I've been to his house a number of times, and he's just hanging out. We go on his porch and look at the view over the park, and he's just one of the guys. He's just got a sense of humor, and I brought my daughter a whole bunch of times, and he just treats her like family. So he's a down to earth, cool guy.
Yeah.
But
he seems like
a star.
Seems like that too.
He's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
He working with him is great, but you got to bring it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an unsaid thing, but you got to bring it. He wants everything right, and he's called all of us out on some things, and so we have to make sure, we're nailing the parts.
Yeah.
But that's been a great gig working with that guy. It was just a fluke the way it happened.
How did that come about? How did you?
Gotta tell us about that.
One of those things. I just finished a record with Steve Winwood, and Steve at the record company, whatever, said, "Hey, let's do a video." So we did a video on a song called "Spy in the House," I think it was. Anyway, then from that, they said, "Well, we're going to do VH1 honors show in L.A. And would you guys mind backing him up on the tune, part of the show?" We said, "Hello, of course, that'll be great." Yeah. "Oh, would you mind doing a couple tunes? Because this looks like it's going to be a full-on big show." "Oh, would you mind doing like 4 tunes?" Oh, sure. "Oh, we just got a call from Stevie Wonder, and would you mind backing Stevie up on 4 tunes?"
Do I really have to?
Well, hello. I thought I died and went to heaven.
Right.
Shaka Khan is going to be. James Taylor's going to be. And, the list is crazy. It's like one of those like the who's who. And we became the pit band pretty much. Nard and Michael Walden's the guy. And he's my longtime friend, and I'm his musical director. So we put together this show and killer band. All the locals. It was awesome, and who was in the house watching the show? Sting. And he does a similar thing, come to find out, called the Rainforest Benefit, where he has, a band back up all these stars and yada yada. And he actually came at a suggestion from Bruce Springsteen, who, because he was looking for a musical director for the show, and Bruce said, Nard is perfect for that. He's doing this show. And so he came to the show as a result of Bruce. And that's how it happened. He came, heard it all, and said, "Man, Nard, this is great. Congratulations. You really did a great job. Yeah. I have a show in 2 weeks or 3 weeks at Carnegie Hall. Would you mind being my musical director?" And Nard said, "Yeah, I need my guy. Frank's my musical director. So, yeah, of course, So the two of us went and did this. He had already done 6 of these every year, and we came on the 7th year. and did the show, and it was just to stand in Carnegie Hall was crazy.
That's-
Just to
what
stand there,
is-
literally, I was
yeah.
in awe of just that.
Was that the first time you actually played there?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, I never dreamed I'd play there, and it just.
I mean, I figured you probably already did, but
No,
yeah.
it's a special place,
Yeah,
and
it is.
I was just in awe, and the show was awesome, and everything went great,
Yeah.
and it was a smaller ensemble. I think I played Hammond and electric and acoustic, and I think we had a second keyboard player that year. I can't remember. And but a small ensemble, 3 singers, something like that, and it was great. Then all of a sudden, the years going on, we get a call, hey, would you mind doing it again? And I'm going, because I was depressed after that show, because it was like, here I just played with Stevie Wonder in L.A. and yada yada, now this,
Right.
and then now what?
Right.
As great as it was,
Yeah,
it's like a
you can't get any
letdown
higher.
yeah.
to come back. Even though I love everything I do, there's just you get a taste of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want some more of that.
Exactly.
And so anyway, one thing led to another. We were invited back, and then we weren't invited back the 9th year because he did a Frank Sinatra tribute, and they hired a big band. And so
Wow.
all the celebrities wanted to sing Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And we thought that was it. And they called back and said, okay, this is our 10th and last year, because Sting made a commitment to 10 years to this foundation. And so we went, and all of a sudden this became 2 shows in one, meaning 2 sets. Normally we would do 2 sets. The first set would be the stars like James Taylor doing solo guitar and singing, and the band would come out for the second part of the show. Well, then for this one, well, let's put together a massive show and record it and do all this stuff. Oh, great. And so we did that, went great, and we thought that was it. And then they called back close to 2 years later and said, okay, this is too much fun. We're going to do this every other year forever. And
Wow.
so it's
You're
still
like,
going on.
wow.
Great.
Yeah.
And when did you first start it? What year was this?
I think 97.
You've been doing this for a minute now. So
Many years,
yeah.
23 years, whatever,
Jesus.
Awesome.
That is such
I
a
never thought. It was
what
just-
an incredible blessing. Just yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Like you mentioned Angela Bofield, who I just think is one of the most underrated singers out there.
Oh, yeah.
People, kind of forgotten about her, but she is such a staple. And that song "Try," I
I
what
try.
an- the orchestration on that thing alone.
Yeah,
it's just stupid.
I think Dave Grusin did the orchestration. Yeah,
Oh,
Dave Grusin
okay,
did.
that would make sense.
Yeah, because he was the producer on her first 2 records, and yeah, that was a blessing. Another one of those things. Working with Narda, we did a record with Angela because Clive Davis signed her to a new deal with Arista Records after the Grusin Rosen first 2 records, which are still my favorite records.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though I did a number of them after that,
Yeah.
the first 2, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we did a record called Something About You. And after that record, she asked me, do you, by the way, do big band arranging and conducting? And because I've got, a week in Atlantic City opening for Bill Cosby and 2 weeks in Vegas opening for Bill, and I need a guy. Is that something you do? Oh, of course that's what I do. I had never done anything like that in my life.
Yes.
I took a conducting class in school and college. So the good news is I knew how to lift my arm and move it to one side and back and forth. So I had that going for me. But I'd never done big band arranging, or if I did very small amount, just But so I called Wayne Wallace, who you all
Right,
know,
right.
my good buddy. We went to school
Yes,
together and
yes.
toured together and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, help. So we got together and I just needed to do 4 tunes, but we co-arranged 4 tunes, and then off I went.
Yeah.
I can still remember being backstage in Atlantic City, having never done this, with a full big band of some stellar players.
Yeah.
Yikes,
The
East
best
Coast.
of the best.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so I'm backstage literally going, you can do this. You can do this. Don't worry.
That's
You
funny
can
to
do
hear
this.
Frank
You can do
saying
this.
that right now when we just
Ah.
always think like we just can do anything.
The pressure. The
I
pressure.
was just like, but I just walked out. I said, okay, have fun. Walked out. Just became one of the guys, introduced myself, and we started to play. And I loosened up by saying, I wrote these charts, the rhythm section, and I want it to feel good. I don't care if it's note for note.
Yeah.
I just want it to feel good, make it feel right. That's what I'm going for here.
Right.
And their eyes got big, and they said, no one's ever said
He's
that
gonna
to
let
us
us
before.
play. He's gonna let us play.
And so, so I instantaneously made some friends, you know.
I bet you did.
And the band rocked, you know.
Oh,
they were awesome. And then off to Vegas and 2 weeks there and hanging with Bill Cosby. It was just like, you got to be kidding. You know, we'd go jogging and he'd invite me to his room and we'd talk jazz. And this is before we knew what was, you know.
Right.
But still, you know, at that moment, it was like, wow, you know, he was a really cool guy. And he
very knowledgeable, wasn't he?
loved Angela Bofield, which is how the gig happened.
Yeah.
And so from there, I just went and worked with her for literally 25 years, on and
That's
off.
unreal.
Not steady, but you know, I'd go whenever she'd need me. I'd go out with her and do the tours.
That's good though. I mean, when you have 10 of those.
That's the
stay
key.
busy, right?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I'm not one of those that would want to get a gig as great as that is and do just that forever. Some people I know love that and have, and they've had a great career, and they're happy as can be.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I kind of like being on the high wire, not knowing what's next.
Some variety.
Which means something really cool is going to happen at some point.
Exactly.
Maybe this year could be not so great, but the payoff for me, I don't know. I
think it's got to be a spiritual thing. Spiritually, you just want to feel, just to have a little variance, you know.
Absolutely. You know, even today, I love teaching. I teach the UC Berkeley, the Jazz School, Conservatory, yada, privately.
I didn't know UC Berkeley. I always knew about the Jazz School.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of
at least 15 years at UC Berkeley and
Jeez.
the Jazz School, and now the Conservatory at the Jazz School. It's a separate but same, place. But my point is that I love teaching. But if that's all I did, I'd go nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, curiously, when you're arranging stuff, because I'm a songwriter myself, I've never really dabbled in that area. But what do know is you have to have a great knowledge of what the instruments can do. Like you can't write something that an instrument can't play, so you have to kind of know your instruments really well. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, real important.
I imagine so.
I have 3 different books that are my reference books. that I always went to make sure I had the ranges correctly.
Right.
What notes are realistically comfortable for most settings?
Right.
Do you have a player who can play triple high G's on the trumpet? Well, then you can utilize that.
Right.
But in general, you need to know the ranges and then sonically how things sound. But the way I learned arranging, because I did a lot of string arranging, especially back in the 80s and 90s, and a lot of it, is I just did it from my synthesizer, call up a string patch and mess with it. You almost can't go wrong. Of course, they're phenomenal string arrangers.
Right.
But I started with in fact, it was Angela Bofield, Something About You record was the first time I did string arranging and brass arranging. And I never did it before. I said, can I try that? And it worked because I just did the same kind of stuff I do on keyboards. It sounded great. And I tried it and I was like, wow, that works. And then I would do something and that didn't sound so good, And so you change something. On an Al Jarreau record once, I remember I asked for 15 strings. It was great.
Wow.
Except I had 3 cellos, which is awesome, and violins and violas. And they played my arrangement, and all of a sudden it was like, cello and strings. It's like,
It was overpowering, yeah.
So I had to, I realized that, wow, I can't use a huge bottom, even though there's only 3 cellos large.
Yeah,
and so, we found a way to make it work, and I had one of the cellists lay out in a few sections because it was just, wow.
Yeah.
And you don't know that
until you hear it.
Right. And you're in the moment. And then you've got to listen you record with one ear off so you can hear the intonation.
Exactly.
Because it all sounds great here. Yeah. And I'm back there going, no.
Yeah.
What's the problem? I go in there and listen and go, oh my God, So you have to learn, little tricks of how to really listen for the intonation.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the timing, because string players, most of them are classical players, and so they play a little behind the beat. If you ever watch an orchestra, the conductor goes, oh, and then you hear,
Right.
You know, I've played with some orchestras, and it's
Right.
like that's so hard to play because you can't look at the conductor. You have to go. You can, but you have to listen and make it all work. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But anyway, long answer to you have to know ranges and how it
Yeah.
works. And how do you really learn? My own opinion is you just simply listen. You like the arrangement that Angela had on I Try?
Yeah.
Clone it.
Right,
Listen, figure out every detail,
That's great.
and
That's
simply
great.
clone the range of the instruments, what's going on, how much movement. You know, when you arrange, you don't want to add all these melodies everywhere that sound so great that have nothing to do with the song.
Right.
And that's
clash.
the ego that we
Right.
have to struggle with
Mhm.
of, make the music, make the song important.
Yeah.
And even if it's just and fades out, great. That's all it needed.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
Right.
it takes a minute to learn that craft,
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's also the level of like the certain frequency levels. When I was working with the James Brown band, I was playing keys, and they just wanted me to hold this one note because they had 2 guitar players, 2 bass players, 2 there, and then background singers. It's like, where do I mean, me to play chords would just be just nonsense at that point. The frequency levels were all taken care of. All of it was there. So I just held this nice string note on the top.
But isn't that one of the most satisfying things you can do?
I was in heaven, but
You're adding one part that makes it work,
you're just part of a
And that's
song.
one of the best parts of being a keyboard player,
Exactly.
because we can be an entire symphony, or we can be that one note, and both have equal value. It just
They
depends
sure
on the
do.
moment. And if you can get into the beauty of sustaining that note at the right time and making it blend with the right attitude.
Right.
Yeah, and James Brown, hello, you don't want to be, playing jazz voice and
no.
jazz voices everywhere,
No,
It's like,
no,
no.
it's not. There's no place for that. Yeah.
When I do the Sting thing, it's 3 keyboards,
Jesus.
2 guitars, bass, drums, and percussion, 7 horns, 7 background singers, string section. I mean, it's like massive.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times my role in that, even though it's glamorous and I'm playing with Sting and everybody, it might be that one note because somebody else has got all the other stuff covered. And so
Covered.
Just as
Yeah.
important as
Right.
any
Yeah.
other part.
it makes it work,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But just having the sensibility to say, okay, I don't want to play something large. Everything, just being aware of where your place is and find it and lay it in there.
That takes time to learn.
It's not It's not instinctual in some people. They just I play. I'm sure we all have. We played with guys and they're just guitar players playing tons of chords while you're playing tons of chords, and so I'll back off and I'll say, let me hit something up in this upper register. He's got this covered.
Yeah.
So I can just create a wall instead of conflicting. So yeah, there's so much more to playing music than just playing music. There's a whole other angle to it.
Listening is like 99%. Listening, finding your spot to serve the music, to make it
Serve
like,
music.
wow, that one note.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all it's needed.
That's all it
And
is.
as producers, when you arrange something with the keyboards and all that in the computer and yada yada, similarly, just because you can, that doesn't mean you should,
Right.
And that takes some discipline too, because everything sounds so good. I remember producing this one record for this band, and I had the percussions all programmed drums, and so I had the finger snaps, the little cymbal, everything you could imagine, the entire spectrum, completely filled up. It sounded so good until I listened to the record, and then I wanted to go hide in the corner. It's like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
All I needed was the little finger snap, and it would have been magic. But
Yeah,
no, I had to have the symphony of percussion. All parts were great. Oh, where's the trimmers? It's just
Utilization of space.
Oh,
Utilization of space.
I
yeah.
learned from that one big time. Big
We've
mistake.
all been there.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if you remember the first time we met. It was, I think, in Orinda at a jazz festival, and you said,
Yes.
hey, can I use your board? And
Yeah.
now this brother goes into my board. I've had this board for a long time, and he does something, and the dopest keyboard sound comes out of there. And I'm like, I don't even know where you found it. I don't know if you tweaked something. I still haven't found that sound. To this day, I'm like, I think you just did something, and it was the dopest little road sound. And I said, man, I really need to learn my keyboard at this point. But it was really just great. But it was a really nice little, humble little Orinda jazz festival we were in. And but I just became a big fan of yours and just
thank you.
really admire your just your brain,
Thank
your musicality is just phenomenal. So nothing but respect.
And diverse, diverse. Like
Yeah, diversity is just
crazy.
diverse playing, just anything you want to put your hands on. Now, what are you doing over at the jazz school over here? Are you doing clinics? Is that mainly? Or are you teaching?
No, I've done some, but teaching classes, the conservatory part of that, I usually lead an ensemble and teach private lessons. But right now, ensembles are, not happening as far as playing together live.
Right.
So they switched me to 3 duo classes where I play with the cellist as one of my students, a drummer is one of my students, and vibes player is one of my students. So it's teaching improv, how to interact, the dialogue, and we do some duo playing via a program called Jamulus, which allows you to play together, with a very slight delay.
Oh, I heard about that. I think Billy was telling me about that.
Worked
You
great.
could be like in another country, and it's
Well,
supposed to.
There's a distance thing.
Oh, it is okay.
There may be some programs that mastered that, but this particular one is great for up to 500 miles. So L.A., no problem. New York, the farther you get away, there's a delay.
There's a delay.
So, and these students are all here that I'm using. So it works great.
Mm.
But so I'm doing that for the conservatory. The jazz school itself starts next week. And
Nice.
I'm teaching an arranging class and an accompaniment comping class. And I change that literally every quarter to something different. I've taught
You might see me
40
in there.
plus classes there.
You might see me in there.
Great.
Yeah.
It's just, I love it. I love, the interacting with people, and it's awesome. And so that's a full-on class, but that's regular old Zoom.
Oh, that's and
it works great. We can't play together, but that's okay. One at a time they play. We talk about it, listen, and I demonstrate, yada, yada. So that works great. And then UC Berkeley, I have an ensemble.
Nice.
But I brainstormed the idea, well, everybody's doing it, where we're going to create videos, one at a time kind of stuff. Right. And so what we're doing right now, I said everyone in the class is now a composer, period.
Wow.
Literally. I don't accept no for an answer,
Right.
So, and we've only had a couple classes. In the first class, I brought something and showed them what I wanted. I sent them a track with everything, and then a track without drums. Well, there's no drummer in the class right now, but to the bass player, no bass. To the guitar player, no guitar. To the horn players, no melody. All that kind of stuff.
And they got
And then you'll create your part and ad lib to it, yada yada. And then we're not using that. I said, I don't want to use my stuff. You guys write.
Wow.
A couple I've had before, these students, and the piano player in particular is just brilliant. He'd never written a song maybe 2 years ago, and we started working together privately. And almost immediately, he was writing better than I'm writing.
Yes. There's some brilliant.
Just brilliant,
Yeah.
So he's already submitted a song for next week. And anyway, so that's what I'm doing there. That kind of a thing for an ensemble.
That is amazing. Now, who are the piano players that you personally admire? I'm sure it's a hard one. There's a long list. I imagine
it's tough. I mean, the big 3 growing up musically were Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, and Chick Corea. So that's kind of a generic answer because they're still, even, in their late 70s, Herbie's 80. And I still...
Is he 80?
He's 80, yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
He looks great.
He's 80, still playing like he's 20. He's just crazy. I got to play with him a few times.
I heard that on the thing, and how did that come about? That's one of my favorite guys.
Well, the first time I played on a record of his, because Narda was producing, and we're doing the pop thing, and so anyone can play keyboard parts for some of those things,
Right.
So so that's how I first met him and got to hang a bit. I remember getting my new Oberheim synth. I was so excited, and he was at the Automat where there were like 4 studios. One was his,
Right.
David Rubinson was his manager at the time, and so I said, Herbie, check it out. I got the new Oberheim. He's going, oh, that's great. Yeah, come with me. What? So I go down the hall to his studio. We open the door, and it's just like, it's a music store. 4 mini Moogs together, hooked up before MIDI, hooked up playing together. He says, step on that button. I said, okay. Everything starts to play. And that's, again, before all the stuff that anybody can do.
Right. Oh,
and I'm just, and so I got to hang, and he had check out my piano. So I played his piano. I'm just going, my God, the best Rhodes I ever played in my life.
It's all
He was
custom.
humble. He wasn't going, that's not how you play. Or, he could have just done, no. He was just cool, So that was the first interaction I really had with him. And then I played with him on the afternoon show. I did a TV show in San Francisco for 2 years where we were like a Letterman band, quartet.
Okay.
I was telling Simon.
And we backed up whoever, And one of the shows was Herbie. He came on to promote Round Midnight, the music score he did for that incredible film.
Wow.
And so I wrote out Chan's song the night before, since I found out, and something else, I forget. And he walked into rehearsal, and we're playing Chan's song. And he says, you guys know Chan's song? He jumps on the piano, I get back on the synth, and we played that, and then, and this is great. He says, but I think we should probably just do rhythming, Monk's rhythming, just rhythm changes, and da 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 da. So
Right.
I said, yeah, whatever, But the best part was just jamming at rehearsal. We must have played for half an hour.
Oh.
Just, jamming on that
Just-
tune. Trading Force with Herbie is like, we come to the TV show and Trading Force, and my hands are going, oh God, can we go back to the rehearsal? But the rehearsal, that's what I remember. It was like, yeah. And then he did a Sting show, and so he played piano on Beatles tunes. We did a Beatles tribute, and I
that must
wrote
have
out
been
charts
insane.
for him, and just, had chart stuff to,
Now, did he play the chart or did he do his own thing?
He did his own thing, but he played the chart to match what we were doing. I played Hammond organ, and
then
Philippe
some.
Sace, a great keyboard player, was on synth.
Sunday night.
Yeah, that guy, he's amazing. And so, comping for Herbie, good Lord, that was just heaven, Just, and same thing, all I needed to do sometimes is that one note that you talked about.
Right.
And, I had to make sure, is this too much, Because I want to make
think I'm
sure
doing
this
too
is Herbie,
Right.
But to play with him, but he played the Beatles tunes, the correctness of them, but he put his spin on it. It was like, wait, can we stop? What was that? It's just, and he again, humble, not trying to outplay. It's just, I found the best players, there's no ego.
Right.
When they can easily just squash it like an ant.
Right.
They don't do it. They're there to have fun.
Well, they're about the music. Right.
Joey DeFrancesco, imagine playing with him. It's like, what did you do? And he was the one who invited me. I was producing a record, and for a singer, I was producing Karen Blixt, and invited him to play. And it was Buddy Montgomery, the great vibes player, Wes Montgomery's brother, who passed away 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. And so we did some stuff, and I was showing him a tune I wanted to do, and he says, "This sounds great. Let's have piano in this." And I'm going, so, and it was great. So we played together on a few things, it's awesome. And similarly, he just approached everything with a smile, never, check this out, or,
Wasn't a
I'm
competition.
much better than you'll ever dream of it. No, it's never that. It's just,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of
Yeah.
the language that we all take part in.
Yeah.
It's leave the ego at the door.
Yeah.
Let's have
But
some
you did
fun.
your homework too. It could have been a different story. if
You
it wasn't
have
Frank Martin showing
to
up.
know your basic stuff,
Yeah.
but
Being prepared, like you say, you always prepare.
Well, there's guys on that level. Joey is just hands of just so freaking fast, crazy fast, and just to think on that level that quickly.
God.
But I was, one of the things that I remember was hearing an interview with Mary McPartland and Bill Evans.
Yeah, I
Did
heard
you ever
that.
remember that? And I was
Yeah.
like, and so she wanted him to give an example because he mentioned something about kind of displacement of his rhythms. And so he starts going, and it's insane.
Yeah.
Of course, Bill Evans. And she tries to step in, and then she just goes, "Okay, screw this."
Yeah.
Because I think he went through like 7 keys, and he's just like, and he just warped everyone's mind. And she tried to step on it, but she realized, no, he's doing something. And she kind of laughed, and she goes, "What the heck?" And she had balls. She was really ballsy.
She would play with anyone.
She didn't care. She would step to anybody.
The Herbie one was great. Did you ever hear that one?
I haven't heard that one.
She called him out on a sus chord. They're playing. He says, "That sus chord, you sure use that a lot, And he goes, "Yeah, I guess I do." But she had balls. You're right.
Sure had
She
balls,
was
man.
fearless, and she could hang with anyone.
She could.
She had the way she played, but none of them tried to outdo her, and
No.
vice versa.
Yeah, but she'd go toe to toe with you. You
Oh,
know?
my God.
She would not care. And I mean, you have someone like Bill Evans. I would just kind of go, clinic. This is a clinic. I'm just kidding. She's like, no, let's go. You know, did balls for days.
And Bill would say, yeah, let's play. Again, that's the beauty of somebody like a Bill Evans, who was so prepared, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
There were times when he would stay home for a year and just, I need to practice. I need to get my stuff together, my touch. I need my voicings. I need to get this so it's way better. And then at some point he realized he was ready or whatever. I met him once, and he was doing a solo concert at the Great American Music Hall, opening not really opening for, staggering with, I guess, more than that, McCoy Tyner. 'Cause they're both equal. But I went up to him because I saw him. He came up, I don't know if you remember the Great American Music Hall. He came up from downstairs and just stood at the top watching McCoy because he wanted to watch McCoy like all the other fans, And I said, this is my opportunity. So I walked over to him and said, oh, Mr. Bill. And just said, you just played beautifully again, yada, yada. And he immediately has that dark thing. And he went to, I just didn't play well tonight. I don't like the piano. And just immediately.
The level of excellence that he
expected.
Yeah,
he was down on himself. And I said, I know I played that piano, and it's not the best piano. It's a Baldwin. And then McCoy brought in his own Steinway because he didn't want to play it. And so he had some fun on his Steinway. And Bill still sounded great. Yeah. But you know how it is when you have an instrument that it's like butter. It just speaks, And that's what that Steinway was like, and the Baldwin wasn't. But still.
Yeah.
But he always had that unfortunate dark side, which got him in trouble with the drugs and all that.
Yeah. I mean, so many of our jazz masters got hooked on it. I think, one of the interesting things, I had a conversation with a young up-and-coming saxophone player, and he was saying that he was thinking about doing smack because he thought that's how they achieved that greatness. And I was thinking, there are so many of those guys who are just brilliant without it, And these guys lived really short lives, They would go in there and they'd be smacked out, but you'd never miss a note, It would be just unreal.
That list is long, a lot of guys, and so you assume there's the answer, A drummer, good friend of mine that unfortunately it got to him, had that thought that I need to be doing smack to be loose and in the zone and fluid and yada yada, and you do get loose and all that, but it's a falsity, it only lasts for a while,
it's illusion.
And anyone can drink a beer, get a little more relaxed, and so I get that, kind of calms the jitters, but smack is a whole nother thing, or 20 beers,
Yeah.
And so there's a level,
Right.
But you're right, there are people that have that, so you have to pick and choose your idols and what their lifestyle was like, and, separate the two, because
Absolutely.
Just judge them on what they do, It's sometimes painful to listen to Lady Day singing because she's so smacked out, and
Oh yeah.
Billie Holiday, and she was phenomenal, but at times you get to see she was just any second.
Right. In Charlie Parker, same thing. Now I was going to ask you, some of the musicians. I think it was we had the trombone player Mike Rinta. We had Mike Rinta, and he was talking about how important it is to be like kind of just allow yourself to be in the present, in the zone. How much of that is in your playing? Because sometimes you're playing with insane musicians. You're playing very cerebral stuff, and it's not something you can just sit there and calculate. You have to kind of let yourself go and have the. Now, how much of that is something that you take on in your playing?
Well, you got to be in the zone. I mean, to me, the zone is being confident and relaxed, and I don't want to say fearless, but pretty much, or ready for what comes your way and excited about it. I mean, there's something about being in that space, and I'm not there all the time for sure, and I try to get there, breathe, relax, listen, have fun, no matter who you're playing with,
Right.
I've had to play in front of George Duke, and I mean, you name it, there they are, right there, Little Richard right there, I'm playing rock and roll in front of Little Richard, you have to just go, okay, back to the zone, who's got the zone, and so you can be intimidated on so many levels, and
Right.
I have, and it has not served me well when I
Right.
let that come in.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, if not now, when? Let go of that, have some fun.
Yeah, you're
And
there for a reason.
they're going to have fun because they're not here for the most part, to trounce on you. They're here to support. So when you're playing really challenging stuff, that's, again, you got to be prepared on some level, do your homework.
Right.
I've been out there swimming in the water and without a life jacket, and it's not fun. It's not fun, and all of a sudden, okay, where's one? What song are we doing again? Is this in 7 or 5? What is it? Oh, God, help me, And so you let go, and for whatever reason, at that moment, everything just falls back into place again.
It's such a special place.
It
It's
is,
such
and
a
when you
special
are
place.
there, oh my God, that's the drug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the thing
yeah,
that you want
euphoria.
more of,
Euphoria.
and there's so. Yeah, you got to find the zone and then allow others to find their zone by being supportive. We're rhythm section players, and so our job, one of which, is to make them comfortable, create an environment so they can find their zone, and whatever they do is like, yeah, incredible. And when somebody comes up and compliments them, I always take that as a compliment too, because
Right.
Yeah.
we did our job,
Mhm.
and because we could easily make them not sound so good.
That's true, and I love the example you're using. Is it's a conversation, and so I remember we playing with someone like Billy I've been playing with for years, and he's such a musical drummer, and he'll do like a little something, or he'll be tapping onto something that you're doing in your solo. He's got a hand always connected to something, and when you play with really great players like that, it's a joy, and you just grow and learn more about your own instrument.
Yeah, we are lucky. We're talking about all these named people, but we are so lucky that right here,
Right.
there's
The
pretty
Mecca.
incredible people.
Mecca.
There's some keyboard players here that are like, oh my God, drummers and bass players, and they're all here.
Yeah, yeah.
They just don't maybe have the name that Herbie has,
That's
or Tony Williams, or whatever,
Right.
But they have their thing that is just as deep and just as valid,
Yes.
And so, we're lucky, like you said, Billy, who has he not played with and made them sound good.
He's great. He's
You
such
know?
a great drummer. Yeah.
He's disciplined. He's just school. The first time I heard Billy play, I was on tour with Narada, Mike Walden, and we were in Philadelphia
Mm-hmm.
opening for Patti LaBelle for a week straight
Wow.
at some theater, and he was the drummer,
Right.
And I just, I met him for the first time. We didn't really hang much. I just met him, and I was like blown away at how well he played. While he's going, Narada, Mike Walden, because at that time Narada was, we're doing fusion mixed with R&B. It's like the
Right.
crowd sometimes loved us and sometimes said, "What the heck is this?" I should have loved you, yeah. We go into Sonnet's dancing. It's like,
Right.
what
Yeah.
is
You
that?
twist their brains a little bit.
Yeah, so, but I remember that week meeting him, and I was thrilled when he moved out here. And I don't know how long after he was out here, but it couldn't have been too long that we connected and started playing the Kanzaki Lounge, and before that, and that did that for years. And I still haven't played for a while, but every time I play with him, it's magic. He just has ears and experience. He can play any kind of a groove.
Yes.
And that
yeah.
list is long. And not just Billy, and I love Billy. Remember Joel Smith, I'm sure, real well.
Very much
How about
so.
an unsung hero there?
Yes, yes.
He
yes.
could play keyboards. He could play guitar. But he's known for bass player / drummer. He could sing. I mean, it was just, he could guide the background singers, the Hawkins Family Choir. I remember doing a session, and he's telling them what to sing. And I'm just going, no, take it, my friend. I'm the producer, but no, you go. And he was a freak among freaks, and minus zero ego.
No ego. Yeah.
How lucky were we to have him here all those years?
We're gonna do a show on him. And if you want to come and
I'd
talk,
love to.
we'd love to get anyone who's played with him. Really wonderful.
I've got great stories. Great stories.
I got to play with him one time in San Francisco at a club called the Matrix, and it was a DJ, myself on keyboards and him on bass, and we were just playing along with whatever he threw at us, and he threw out some of the most ridiculous bass solos I've ever heard in my life. And he's just sitting there chewing gum, and he's kind of laying back, and killing it.
Yeah.
And I go, I got a solo after that? Like, what the hell? You know, I did my thing on it. But boy, was he just had it.
I would produce records where I'd hire him to be the drummer and the bass player because
He do both.
No one played better with him than him, you know. I got one little story I remember. Well, it's too many. Which one should I pick? One time, doing a session at an artist studio. I don't remember who it was for. Doesn't matter. But he was coming in to play bass, and he hadn't, heard the song yet at all. And we just said, let's try something. Let's roll tape. Just play with the track he'd never heard. And he played it like he'd rehearsed it for a month.
Yeah.
It was like, because he's a drummer, he could kind of pause before he would figure out, okay, what's the note? Oh, okay. And all of a sudden now he knows where he is. He can hear the pitches because his ears were crazy.
Right.
And pop music in general has things that are similar. So he would recognize something and go with that. And his notes were not always the exact bass note of the chord, but the note fit the chord perfectly. So it didn't matter. It's like, I would not have thought to play that, but of course it works,
Right.
But anyway, I remember that really well, and there are other things like that. But his ears, good God.
Did you ever get to work with, we've mentioned on many of the shows, Bill Bell. Did you ever get a chance to work with him at all?
Yeah.
He was
I
great.
did a record for Molly Holm, local singer, 15, years ago. And, Bill is like one of the favorite pianists of all singers because you couldn't accompany a singer better than Bill Bell. He was just crazy great. And so I was producing the record, and we called him to play on a couple tunes, a blues and a ballad. And again, the most humble genius you could ever know. As far as playing together, we never did that, but working with him in that context. And then when I did that record that I mentioned with Buddy Montgomery, the vibes player,
Right.
the way I get a lot of these celebrities or stars to play on these records is go to their gig. Say, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going? You sounding great. Would you do a session for me, please? And 99% of the time they say, yeah,
That's
But I didn't know how to approach this guy, and Bill Bell was the pianist that night. And I told him, I want to get him on a record, and he says, no problem. And come on up, He says, buddy, this is Frank. He's my good buddy. He will take care of you. You're going to love it. You're going to have a ball.
That's all he had to
Record
say.
with him. He says, oh, okay. So I
Done deal.
humbly, thank Bill Bell for that, because then that meant I got to record with Buddy Montgomery, all because of Bill Bell. So and there are so many stories from Will Kennedy, stories about him. Everybody studied with this guy in school. He was a genius.
Yeah, he sure was. I was playing in a little hole in the wall, and he walked by, and I didn't recognize him, and he just goes, my name is Bill Bell, and he's like, would you ever be interested in taking some instruction? He goes, I like what you're doing, but I could really, and I'm like, yeah, and I
Awesome.
never called his number.
Wow.
I wish to this day, I had done it. He gave me his number, and but he said, you got some great ideas.
Yeah.
But he says, I want to open you up. And he was just such a gracious guy. It wasn't like he wasn't insulting me. He was just saying,
No,
I've
done
you
that
know?
a lot too. You just going down, hearing people at Guitar Center, and you make, you sound good, man. But if you ever need some help,
Right.
That's how teachers are. They hear it's like, wow, I could really help him. But you got to approach it in a way to where it's not like.
He was very gracious. I didn't feel like it was an insult. He just,
No.
he really said, hey, you got some great ideas.
Did you
but-
know who he was at the time, or no?
I didn't know who he was at the
Right.
time until like kind of later on.
And
People,
then you went,
when I mentioned, this guy Bill Bell, they're like, oh, hey, no, and I really regretted.
You know
not
who else
calling.
was like that? Was Smith Dobson. Do you remember Smith
Oh,
Dobson?
yeah.
I don't
He was a
remember him.
piano player that
Yeah.
was just another one of those
I was
geniuses.
in high school when I met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he, played with everybody from,
But they were so like
Bobby Hutcherson.
ahead of their time, man.
Oh man, he was
Dale,
just
like-
amazing. He could sing. He played with Cold Blood, playing organ and Rhodes and singing. But he also did the straight ahead thing. He worked at a club in San Jose. He worked for many years called Garden City, where it was a trio.
Right, yeah.
And anyway, but he was another one of those guys that would do that. And the keyboard player in Artist Camp now, same thing. Smith heard him play and said, "You sound great, but you could use some help, And he says, okay. And but he says, I just don't have any money. He says, did I say anything about money?
Right.
He
Right.
studied with him for free for quite a while and learned some really cool stuff,
That's
but
it.
it all started from a Bill Bell approach of just reaching out and helping somebody, and that comes back.
Yeah,
It does.
It comes
does.
back,
It's
so.
a ripple. It's a ripple effect. The stuff that I learned, I'm going to pass it on to someone else, and that was kind of the way we did things. You look at the kind of the history of music, and you look at in the hood, they didn't really have lessons. You just, you sat there and you sat there and watched their hands, and they would just kind of, this is what I'm doing.
And the
You
needle.
know, right? The needle, learning off the records. There wasn't like any real formal training. And you look at some of these church players.
God.
It's ridiculous. He was involved with that whole thing, the gospel chops, and these little kids, like 16 years old, and you walk up and you go, "What is that you're playing?" I have no clue. I don't know what a G7 is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about modes. They could just play, and it's phenomenal. They're some of the best musicians on the planet.
Well, that therein is the real truth about music. It's not what's written down. As great as it is to archive
Yeah.
what we all play,
Right.
But it's not about music. It's not about that. It's about listening and dancing and singing and combining all of that. And Joel Smith, again, another one of those, The first time we got together, he was going to be in my band at the Kentucky Lounge. And we had been doing gospel records at this church in Union City.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was blown away. This guy played bass and drums. Like, oh, my God. So I said, would you want to play in my fusion band at the Kentucky Lounge? Because I need a bass player. He says, yeah, that'd be great. Oh, cool. So let's get together tomorrow night and rehearse the gigs the next night. I said, great. So my music, got me crazy, my charts. And they're not easy stuff,
I can only
Even the
imagine.
band that had been doing it for years had their books,
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
So I pull out just, and he looks at it and goes, I don't read music. And I'm going internally, oh, crap. The gig's tomorrow. How am I going to do this?
Right.
And then he said, oh, but don't worry, I'll be cool. I said, but I knew how great he was, so I said, okay. Inside I'm going, oh no, and sure enough, on the first song, I started to play it, some wacky thing, and he just, okay, got it, and, okay, next, okay, got it, next. It's like,
Wow.
what,
Years for days.
and so we go to the gig that night, and none of these guys knew who Joel Smith was, like. Who was this guy? And Vicki Randall, I think, was the percussionist singer at the time, and Steph Burns, and it was a good band. And we started playing, and no music, and everybody's going, "Where's his charts?" I said, "Don't worry about it," And he played flawlessly, all my stuff, all night, and they're just going, how is this possible? They could not believe it because of the unique way the gospel players learn music. You listen, you absorb it, and you play it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the big deal? It's like it makes me go, why wasn't I raised in a Baptist church?
Right.
Damn, if I could have chosen it, I had a, Catholic church was nice, and the little folk music, whenever it was there,
Wow.
was nice, but it's a little different,
Right.
And oh my God, to this day, if I could come back, I'd come back as a gospel guy to do it all again, because then you really learn the music, to me, in a much deeper way than having the charts. That having been said, to have the skills to read music and have that language allows me to do the Sting gig and stuff like that, and others that want to do studio work or whatever that requires reading. There are, of course, lots of studio things that don't. You just have to hear it, But still, there's something about the way the gospel players. What's his name? The keyboard player at Freeway Recording.
Carl.
Carl.
Yeah.
Here's another one of those guys that just blew me away. And he would come to me and ask for lessons, and I would always say, "Go away."
I can't
Don't
mess
need
with
lessons
you.
from me.
Yeah, exactly.
You can watch me and I'll talk about it, but come on. And, no, really. No.
Oh, yeah.
And then that same gospel church in San Jose is where I met him. He would come down there and they rehearsed the night before a 10-song live recording session with a full choir, having no knowledge of the song. None.
No,
And they would come in and they'd throw it together, and I'd watch because I wanted to see, how do you guys do this? And Joel was playing drums. And Jubu, guitar player.
Oh,
I was like,
God.
good God, who's this?
Yeah.
Who are these people? You
Yeah.
know, bass
Freaks.
player from Sacramento. I was like, God. And Carl would just play this stuff just from not knowing, again, what a G7 is. And I don't know, I just play, and would just play the hippest jazz stuff I'd ever seen.
Yep.
But right in the right spot. Pocket. Just like, God, what a groove.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't have the Chick Corea fast, soloing lines, but that's not music. That's great. That can play a part.
Right.
But he just made the music feel good, as did the rest of the quartet. And then they'd go home and sleep, and they'd remember everything they rehearsed. It was intricate endings, intros.
Come and nail it.
And come in the next day and nail it. And I'd listen to the recording because the church was downstairs and the booth was upstairs. And just to hear what they're playing. And they don't make mistakes. They modify things.
I didn't know that you had that connection with the gospel.
Well, it's just one of those things. I'm not a gospel player, but
you had, you were, I thought you guys knew Joel through jazz and fusion. I didn't know that you were working with the Hawkins and stuff like that.
No, I didn't know the Hawkins, but there was, at this church, I don't even know, we did a zillion records, and the keyboard player, Aaron Lopez, his father runs the church, and it's a family thing, yada, yada. And so he came to me for lessons on a fluke. I don't know where he got my name, number. I don't have a clue, but I gave him some lessons. And then he said, would you ever be interested in co-producing a record with me? I've never produced anything, but I got an offer to produce this woman, forget her name, but this woman's record. And I don't know what I'm doing. I said, sure, I don't know what I'm doing either, but, we could equally know nothing and make it work. And so we did that, and we recorded at this studio called Live Oak in Berkeley, and Sherry Haney, that was her name. And that was a good record. I got Mark Russo to come and do a solo on it, and yada, yada. It was, and Joel, of course, did everything. And so that's how that came to be. Then he said, well, I've got this church. Would you want to co-produce this? And then we did a zillion of them, and that's how I met, again, working with Joel, just like, God, even though it was harmonically, the stuff we were doing was not that deep, it was good, but it wasn't like Carl Wheeler's, crazy stuff. But still really good stuff. And so that was my connection to him, it's just through that church, just through Aaron, I got luck of the draw.
So let me ask you, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask, I one of the things that we just had Sylvester Burke on here, and he's great, what a character. Yeah. And the jazz stuff, there's a correlation between jazz and some of the new gospel, but it's a different animal that I haven't seen. The voicings in the new gospel music, it's kind of like connected to the hymnals. They have the way that they kind of roll through there. But one of the things I noticed is that they would replace the root with the third of the chord, which is like this thing. And he was showing me how you could just do this all over the place, and it sounded so majestic,
Yeah.
Again, and just trying to, I just sat there and practiced just doing chords, inversions, but always finding the thirds of every single, and you're like, wow, this is a whole new realm. I didn't even know about. But it is a different animal. It's just, but the thinking, and as you said, there's no training. It's just kind of like, I just stole this lick over here from this guy over here, and they just do it. But that says, that being said, there's so much we don't know. Yeah. We're always learning. And, I think we'll all die being students, we'll all go,
That's the good news.
That's the beautiful thing. It doesn't get boring because we're just going to keep going.
I tell students that all the time, that, the good news is, you hardly know anything.
And
what do you mean good news? The bad news is, you hardly know anything, but the good news is you hardly know anything. And so it's like, you have to get that into your psychic, that's the beauty if you get to the top of the mountain and then, crap, there's another mountain.
There's so many more mountains.
And it never ends. And it's frightening, especially for a beginner, because, well, how am I ever going to learn all this stuff? And you have to just learn one thing. Learn your C triad. Now you got something.
Right.
With the third and the bass, listen to how that sounds. Isn't that cool?
Right.
Yeah. Well, how about the fifth? Whoa. You know, you can do that. It's still a C.
Right.
If you treat every little detail like that, like a little child, the
Discovery.
wonder of it all, you know, and that's what I know you do, and I certainly do that too.
Yeah.
I can't, wow, what was that? You know, and you get all excited about it and watch YouTube and go, whoa, you know, Gonzalo Rubalcaba, the way he played that, so much different than the way, you know, whoever played it, you know.
Yeah. Right, right.
But it's amazing too, like when we're teaching, you know, we're supposed to be the teacher and everything, but man, I found that I was getting taught.
Oh yeah, that's the best part of teaching.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's so funny that you guys were talking about Herbie, and I know you know Justin Brown, and you know this is a kid I worked with 2 years, and then all of a sudden, you know, what, a year and a half ago, he's trading chairs with Vinny Colaiuta playing for Herbie Hancock.
Wow. Yeah, there's some people just have it.
It's just amazing. And I remember judging him in the drum off, and I was kind of like, you know, hey man, you're so great, but do you know about this stuff? You know about it? I don't know nothing about it. Well, show up at my house.
Yeah.
What do you, Mom's Nona, you know, Nona Brown, she's well accomplished herself. And, you know, bringing him over to my house and just like, man, this kid is like a beast.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's amazing. And that's what kind of opened my eyes to the church. And I started meeting a lot of these kids. And David Jackson, 14 years old. I was playing in the gospel, went to Acts, what is it? Acts, full Acts, you know.
I'm not sure.
It was David Jackson, his father, he runs the church and everything, but Acts Full Gospel Church, my God.
Okay.
But anyways, man, these kids were ripping, and we went in and played a show, and, you know, here comes David Jackson playing, bumps the guy off the organ, and then he goes and gets on the drums, and I just put my cymbals down and sat, and everybody, the band went home. I said, you guys go wherever you want. I'm going to watch it. These kids just came in and jammed after the service.
Right.
And we're just like musical chairs and playing every instrument. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, it's just something.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It was great because I gave him the old school things that he just never was taught.
I run into that all the time.
And I was learning all the new hip little things that they were all learning. So it was just great.
I'm telling you, that's, as teachers, we all run into that, and I definitely do at the college level. You know, I have students that come in that have to take private lessons, you know, and they come in and I just listen to them play. And you have to find, well, they do that way better than I can do. What the heck was that? But at the same time, you got to go, how can I help this person? What are their weaknesses? You know, what are they not seeing? And so you find that, and that's the fun of teaching. Because you're right, we learn way more than they'll ever learn. But our job is to find, how can we help them? You know, otherwise, what's the point? You know.
I think you know the thing we were talking about earlier on in this interview about the space, and some of the stuff I learned from some of my simple, you know, the beginning students, was just the simplicity of what they were doing. And I'm so listening. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go and do this nice 13 chord, and like they just did this beautiful little triad that was just perfect and poignant. And it kind of drew me back to like where I was and saying, well, you know, use what works for the moment. And you learn so much from those kids. It's a beautiful thing.
The quest for space, you know.
For space,
and it's easy to forget because we learned a new trick. We want to use it. You know,
yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute.
Exactly.
This is not the time. You know, we're playing Misty here. Chill, you know. It's the first dance of the wedding. Maybe don't go into 13 here. It might be, it's cool, but maybe not here, you know.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, as a drummer, you know, being at rehearsals, it's weird when a cat comes in and like plays a song with different voices, and it doesn't enhance the song. It actually takes away from it because they didn't come anywhere close to it, you know. And then they come in and start trying to put all this stuff, and it's like, bro, can you just play it kind of like more like, I don't know, I can't explain it to you, but that's not the chord. I mean,
it's got to feel right. It's got to feel right.
You know, sometimes it's like people want to put, you know, it takes out of context. You know, a good player will put the right chord in the right situation, no matter if it's complex or
there's the time and a place for that. Sometimes a singer might come in and say, you know, I don't want it to sound at all like the original. Can you twist it? Yeah, in that environment, then that student is right. But when you sit in on Misty or whatever, you play the tune.
Exactly.
You don't try to throw all your cool stuff in where everybody's going, what?
Right.
You're losing the
recognizing
vibe.
the song.
Right. As well, at the same time, still maintaining a bit of your own identity, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to just be like, okay, well, I'm a trained monkey, but you're like, I want to put a little Stank, a little Simon on there, a little, but not, totally destroy the whole context of the song.
That's the beauty of a Herbie or somebody like that who can do that at such a high level, can still keep the integrity, but when it's time, it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that is so incredible. And it's still, why does that still fit? Because of space, listening to the environment, and just, making it work. So I totally agree. You don't want to be a robot. You want to put your stuff in there.
Exactly.
But there's a time and a place, if you're in an environment where you have to not necessarily be a robot, play parts.
Exactly.
You got to play what works, and that one note on the organ, that's all that's needed.
I totally agree with you. And I think that, one of the records I think all piano players should study is Possibilities. And one of the reasons is because it's so accessible, you hear it, he's playing over some very simple changes, but he's not playing over, he's doing some ridiculous shit, over, very simple stuff. So it's like, I was thinking that what's the song he does with Paul Simon? There's that. Did you ever get a chance to play any of those songs? Have you ever just toyed around with it? Because
I'm trying to think what that song is.
Oh, it's something about For Your Love or something like that.
I played is a Walking on the Moon or whatever is the Sting tune that Herbie played, and I've done that arrangement. And
phenomenal.
That's phenomenal. The bass line.
It's like, I remember if you see the video, Herbie had trouble counting out. You hear him, he's like, I'm not hearing this.
It was a guitar player's idea. It was his line.
That African.
Yeah.
I was sitting there trying to count. I'm like, what the heck is this? It's complex, but it's simple in its own way. You got to find it. Yeah. Right. I was like, what is that?
It's like, what? And the first time I heard it, the same thing. It's like, there's one. No, there's a one. No, I'll take that one.
Exactly.
No, it's just in one. That's much easier.
Yeah, exactly. It's a beautiful, beautiful record.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have to be probably one of our most decorated guests so far, and we are just pleased that you took the time to come and hang out with us, man. I know you live across the street and everything, but we'll pay for your cab fees and
I
everything.
appreciate that. Wow. Finally make some money around here.
Yeah,
I just moved, by the way, to France.
We'll push you across the street. We'll push you back across the street.
Yeah, I have such a busy schedule that I can't believe I could fit this in with all the gigs I'm doing, one after another. Was that Sting calling? Yeah, I'm a little busy. Another interview. Sorry.
Well, where do you think music is going right now in the means of with COVID? I mean, it's really like non-existent. The business is kind of just taking a huge hit, but obviously teaching. But do you have any other ideas or pointers for young musicians who are trying to kind of find it out there? Is it kind of reinvent itself?
I'm not sure how to answer that other than you find a way in an environment you're in. This COVID thing, as awful as it is, has been for many of us a blessing, not financially, but just in a way to be more introspective and look at, well, what do I really want to do? I'm not doing really anything right now in general. What do I want to do? What can I work on to get better? Because this is going to end at some point. And do I want to just pick up from where I left off? Or do I want to come back into the game blazing, more on top of it and more aware and with more ideas and excited, So I think right now you have to find the opportunity in this thing, in this pandemic. Find a way to make it win-win. And are you composing every day? Right. Well, I'm kind of busy. Really?
Right.
Well, I sleep in a little more. Whatever. We all have our excuses.
Right.
What are you working on? Are you doing a little bit of classical stuff? Well, I played all classical. Okay. Are you working on some funk stuff? Or whatever it is, it's a little out of your element. Wow, what a great opportunity for that. Then there's everybody and I've done them myself, where you do videos together and you still are playing together, but one at a time. But you create these really cool musical things,
mashups are really cool,
and you're
yeah.
learning new skills about how to use,
Right.
your computer in a different way. You never used it before
That's
with
true.
video,
That's
and it's
true. I
like,
never
what a
thought of that.
great opportunity, and this is going to pay off later, because to just be a piano player is one thing, but there's a lot of piano players out there. But if you have other skills, do you know how to work with video?
Right.
Do you know how to put music to video? Do you know how to, collaborate with others that way? Can you record
Yes.
at home? Do you really know your software enough where you can do everything all on your own?
Right.
No? Well, no problem.
Exactly.
Learn it.
Exactly. Learn
You
it.
know? Everything is
Yeah.
online. Everything
that's
is right
beautiful.
there.
That's
We
my
have
son.
no
He
excuses.
does. He writes and produces everything. Plays all the instruments.
These kids are already aware of that because they don't know any better.
Yeah.
They're
Sure.
5 and they just
Fair
watch,
enough.
Art Tatum play, and they just, I guess that's how you do it. Okay, what's next? It's like, but there's truth to that. You go back to that sponge place and watch and listen and learn. And so in today's environment, I think I look at it as an opportunity. It's
That's a great way to
totally
look
awesome.
at it.
Well,
I do think
this is how this show came up.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It really was. We were like, we got to do something, man.
Isn't it great? Because we're now coming together in different ways,
Yes.
Right.
other than just at the gig.
Right. Right.
Which is still great.
Yeah.
But a lot of us, I definitely missed opportunities to really hang with these people and go, hey, let's go out to dinner. What are you doing Tuesday night?
Right,
Well,
right.
I've got nothing but time. So yeah, let's go out to dinner.
Yeah.
There's a connection that's happening. I know I'm doing that with relatives I
Right.
never talk with.
Yeah.
They're back in Ohio, but all of a sudden we're having these Zoom big discussions and
Yeah.
celebrations
Exactly.
of birthdays. It's like,
Exactly.
wow, and
Yeah.
the connections were, for me, reconnecting to family and friends that I haven't done in so long.
Right.
Again, that's a blessing.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
The other side of that is when you got a business like this, you have to be somewhat practical and say, how do I survive? What do I do?
Yeah.
But in that environment, as hard as it is, I have to think you're learning skills. Okay, I can make this work. I'll find a way.
Right. Right.
And all of a sudden, you're more prepared when other little things come down the pike in the future. It's like, piece of cake, I can do that.
It's we just call it repurposing, right? Okay, I got a space. No one's using it right now. Well, let's start creating music and of course the catalyst to this was I just love being part of this musical family of the Bay
Yeah.
and the musicians here, and it's like we get called to do all these great gigs, but no one really knows who we are,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's just a mecca of musicians. So we were like, hey, we need to interview all these guys, all the masters. You're definitely one of the Bay legends. Believe it or not, if you believe it or not, but you're a phenomenal player, and we're so honored that you came on.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we don't want to take too much of your time, but if you have anything you want to ask?
I just wanted to say that not only does this guy tour around the world and do great things for a lot of people, but he came and played for my father, and my father used to love going to see Frank, and he came and played. I think it was his 85th birthday or something.
yeah, something like that.
With Paul on drums.
At your house,
and
or his house,
the
yeah.
house,
Yeah.
the house. And it was just great, man. And a lot of times, certain musicians will be like, "Oh, hey, it's a house gig. There ain't nobody there. I don't know nobody. No, I don't want to do it." Frank was like, "Yeah, no problem. I know Randy. I'll do it." Victor called him. I think Victor called you.
Mhm.
He reached out. But I said, man, you got to get Frank. And you weren't like, I think you had some type of gig. You couldn't do it at first. And then all of a sudden, I said, so who did you end up getting? Like the day of the gig, he goes, oh yeah, Frank can do it. I was like, what? It was just great. But that was nice, because my dad always really enjoyed you playing, and
Yeah, he's a sweet guy.
oh man, and then he jammed with these guys, on the vibes, and did he have the vibes?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
That's freaking
But man,
awesome.
it was just great, and it was just that's just great. And Frank's always been a great guy. I mean, consistent. I mean, I had my ups and downs, but this guy always, hey Rand, how you doing? All right, get his ass out.
No, there is a lot to be. We were talking about the business. We were saying how important it is to be humble in this business, even though sometimes the people you're working for may not be humble, and they might be total jerks. But if you can stay humble, this is how you sustain a living in this industry.
Play with so
Be
many people.
be on time,
Right.
Yeah.
all of those things, learn your crap and, get your stuff together and be
respect
prepared.
others,
Respect.
Yeah.
But, a lot of these young kids, I mean, and I'm not, I think there's some great music coming out, but the attitudes that I've seen, like my son, he's 20 years old, and it's all about me, 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 me.
Sure.
I love him to death, but it's the generation. And we're kind of from an old school generation where we really were, like punctual, learn your stuff,
That's manners.
have manners,
That's mom and dad's
right,
slapping that booty. They don't get it no more.
I think in all fairness, we probably all, when I can speak for myself, went through some me periods. When I
Oh,
was
of
growing up,
course.
I didn't know hardly anything, and so it was easy to hide behind, that kind of music is, who cares about that? What
Right.
I'm doing is the cool stuff,
Right.
Only because I didn't really get the beauty of whatever. Take your pick of all that.
Right.
And you
Right.
start to learn it, you go, wow, this is equally deep, if not deeper than anything I've ever done.
Yeah.
And
I'm
that's
talking
where
about. I'm
humility
referring.
comes from.
I'm referring more to like just the mentality of just not only just hip hop, but just the overall culture is just kind of like we have people with cameras on themselves, and it's just the kind of the narcissistic kind of aspect that and every generation has their ugly side to it. But I'm saying that we just kind of come from a different guild, and not that we're any better, but we're I've just learned that that's how it's kept me working, is just being easy to work with and just kindness and respect.
And on the other side, we tend to not call people that don't have those kind of values, that don't respect, showing up to the gig and having a good attitude, learning the music and all that kind of stuff, which is the norm.
Right.
But, there's so many great players out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's far too many we can ever think to call. And I know we all tend to call those that are going to do all the normal stuff, show up,
exactly,
have a good attitude, all
right.
that.
He's going to be right in the.
Been there, done that with players that don't have that, and it's like, God, what's that all about, And when it comes time for the next gig, I think I'll go to the next one in line, It's not about chops; it's about attitude.
It is, and what you can bring. I think what it is my daughter's mom is calling me. She's probably outside with my daughter. So, hey, Bay Legends, I wanted to say welcome to Bay Legends, and thank you so much for gracing us with your knowledge and presence. And
we might have to do another part 2 down the road.
Absolutely, man.
Anytime. Just send me a cab.
Yeah.
right.
1, 2, 1, 2. Live from the building. Where you at, Z?